Take a look at the most transcendent players in football from the past 6 decades in a segment that we are calling 60 Years of Swag. Ooh. It's not necessarily the best player of that decade, but the guy who defined that decade. Yeah. Reggie Bush, we're going to ask you to help us go through these. Let's start off with one of my favorite players of all time, Mr. Jim Brown, who I thought personified the 1950s.
My guy.
Reggie, talk about Jim Brown.
Jim Brown actually is funny. It's a funny little story. Jim Brown was actually my neighbor for a long time, for about 8 years in L.A.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I used to have dogs, and my dogs would always get out of my yard, break out, run down the street. And his wife, Monique, actually rescued my dogs one time for me and brought them back to my house. So that's my little Jim Brown story. But listen, Jim Brown was the man. You're talking about a guy who transcended on and off the field. Huge advocate out in the communities.
Sure.
Did so much for people in LA. And listen, I think the world of him. There will never be another Jim Brown. I need to go and see him for sure. But listen, Jim Brown was the man. I love him, man.
Incredible. And I think it's required to be said, too, also a legend of the sport of lacrosse, like a lax god. And then also...
Left at the height of the game.
And left at the height of the game. And then, listen, the Hollywood career is not like these little cameos he makes.
Oh, yeah.
Major movies, major roles. The Running Man, Whitman, Price, and Haddad, Fireball. It was incredible.
He's with Pam Grier, too, right? He's in the movie with Pam Grier.
Even in this day and age, when everybody's a brand, it's so crazy to think that Rob Gronkowski would go leave for Hollywood. He did it at that time. That's revolutionary.
It's amazing. Jim Brown, legend.
And was good at it, too.
Yeah, man, he's still doing it.
Yeah.
What up? Who's next?
Who do you got for the 60s?
Who do I got for the 60s? Another legend, guys. Johnny Unitas. Johnny Unitas, the father of the modern passing game.
Yes.
Just an unbelievable player. Reggie, when you think Johnny Unitas, what do you think?
The black high tops.
All day.
The crew cut.
All day.
I mean, every kid back then wanted to be Johnny Unitas, right? Everybody imagined themselves wearing the number 19 jersey, and Johnny Unitas was that guy, man. He was...
Tell me about these high tops.
During the high tops?
Yeah, yes. I don't know.
This was
all black high tops?
He would wear black high tops. And the great story is Peyton Manning, this is when the NFL really was showing their strong arm. Peyton Manning wanted to honor Johnny Unitas and wear the black high tops. The NFL said, no, we've got uniform. And everyone went nuts. Like, let him wear the high tops.
I remember when Reggie came in as a rook, he had shiny gold cleats. You looked like Michael Johnson, the sprinter. I mean, that to me was sort of like a flashback to the black high tops, man.
Yeah, man.
Crazy thing with Unitas, he goes into the 1970s, signs with the San Diego Chargers, and at the time they were like a hippy-dippy team.
Yeah.
Dan Fouts with like long flowing hair. Unitas shows up with a crew cut, black high tops, and he's seeing these guys, and he's like, I think it's time for me to call it quits.
Wow.
This isn't. Great book called Johnny U. Go read it.
60 Years of Swag, is that what we're calling this?
60 Years of Swag.
Let's go to the Big Apple. Here we are in the East Coast. We got to mention Broadway Joe Namath. One of the biggest personalities, such a character, right?
Who had more swag than Joe Namath? I mean, when I think of Joe Namath, I think about the fur coat. You know how much swag you got to have to wear a fur coat? Johnny Unitas had that, man. He was like the kind of like the Conor McGregor of,
dude, that's a good comparison.
Of his time period, right?
Yes,
it's
100%.
like the Conor McGregor. Like, he had the swag, he talked the talk, he walked the walk.
And Conor is all about, I got the suits, I got the watch.
Yeah, I got the suit.
Fact is, Joe Namath went to the Oscars with Raquel Welch on his arm, which is, that's my number one all time. It's incredible.
He owned a nightclub in New York City at the peak of his game. It was the #1 nightclub in all of New York. The NFL said, you can't play if you own this nightclub. And he said, fine, I retire. Called their bluff.
I'm done.
Eventually, this guy, whether people say, he was overrated as a player. He won a Super Bowl, and he was the man in New York.
He was the man.
He's going to retire.
Broadway Joe. I mean, you don't get any more. Nobody has more swag than Broadway Joe at that time.
He did pantyhose ads.
And a shaving commercial with Farrah Fawcett. I mean, it's unbelievable legend of men and women.
Am I remembering this correctly? It was a green fur coat, right? Or am I wrong?
I don't know.
It was green. I don't know why I just think about this.
Make it work.
Green fur coat.
Well, it was the Jets, his green, and the fur coat. Anything he wore looked absolutely amazing.
Yes.
Over that,
yes.
Yeah.
Let's go to the 80s.
Okay.
And a guy, we're talking about...
80s, that's my year. That's when I was
changing pop culture, changing the game.
Yes.
No one knew swag more than the guy who knew everything, Mr. Bo Knows. Bo Jackson, 1980s. What do you mean to football and pop culture as a whole, Reggie?
I mean, this guy, listen, he played for the Raiders, you know, during that time period when the Raiders were, playing well. And listen, the way he ran the football, on and off the field. I still have some of those shoes, those cross trainers that he had. Those were the one of
I'd
the
never
best
even
shoes.
heard of cross trainers before Bo.
Exactly, before Bo Jackson, right? He played 2 sports and was good at both sports. I believe he won on the All-Star team in baseball.
With the Royals. Absolutely, hit a home run.
Hit a home run.
Like
Wade Boggs.
It'll never be done again, right? Like Deion did it and Bo Jackson did it, but that's it. Like it'll never happen again where another athlete is playing 2 professional sports at the same time. Then the commercials, right? The commercials where he was just. I never forget. I had this poster of him with the bat. In the cutoff T-shirt.
Said Bo knows.
Oh my gosh, that was it.
We've seen guys break bats after they strike out over their knee. Bo would do it over his head. He would break the bat over his head, and you're just like, you're an alien. Yeah, what are you doing on this planet? I want to be you. Unbelievable.
You're not strong you got to be to break a bat over your head.
That's what I'm talking about. Where are we going next? 90s? All right, so we got Bo, played baseball, played football. No one else could ever do that, right?
Right.
Let's talk about prime time. Let's talk about Deion, prime time. Reggie, legend, talk about it.
Prime was the guy who I wanted to be. It was Deion Sanders and Barry Sanders. Those are my 2 guys.
Isn't that cool?
And Prime, everything he brought to the game, the showmanship. Every time he went back there to return a punt, you just felt like he was going to score a touchdown. The swag on the field, must be the money. The video, the song.
Yeah.
You got to look good, to play good. You know that everything about Prime, man. He was the man, and it's funny because even guys to this day, even young kids to this day, still remember Prime for what he was, man. And he changed the game. Like he correct me if I'm wrong.
No, dude, he changed everything. I think in 1991 there might have been one person on the planet, 2 people on the planet cooler than Prime: Michael Jordan and MC Hammer. And MC Hammer is standing on the sideline. They were boys, and he would be in his game. And it's like, this is too much.
Game, and on the sideline is Evander Holyfield and MC Hammer, and Jerry Glanville, the coach, was like,
that's
fine.
cool. Come on,
they're good. They're with me.
So bring us home. What else do we got?
Must be the money.
Let's move on to Michael Vick.
Okay.
Last one. So when you think of Michael Vick in his prime, the impact he had on the league, what do you got?
I think about the shoes, the commercial. Remember the Vick Experience commercial?
The
roller coaster.
Hell yes.
The guys, I love that, man. Vick, everything he did for the game, revolutionizing the quarterback position, the swag that he brought to the game. And then he was a lefty too, you know. So it was like it was everything about him was so different. And then when he got in the open field, nobody was catching him. I don't care who he was.
You're Mr. Open Field, truly. Yes. And you think that you were still looking up at Michael Vick and his open field ability?
100%. Really? I remember even getting a chance to play against him when we had the reopening of the Superdome that year, my rookie year. When I got a chance to step on the field with Michael Vick, I had like stars in my eyes. I was like, man, that's Michael Vick and work done over there.
Like when Allen Iverson said he saw Michael Jordan, he said you could see his aura around him like that. And Reggie, I know you're an esports guy too. Like you love video games. How about Michael Vick, the video game?
You were guaranteed to win. It's like Bo Jackson, right? In Tecmo Bowl.
Yeah, you're talking about Brian Finneran and Algie Crumpler.
Fine, I'll take it. Fine. I'll take Peerless Price. Doesn't matter. I got
for a fact that you were going to win if you had certain guys on the game. Super Tecmo Bowls, Bo Jackson, and then Michael Vick and Madden. It was over. Like nobody could stop him. Nobody could touch him.
Kay presented it as the player of the aughts. Would you agree it's Vick who had the most swag, or would you go Randy Moss?
I got to say Vick. I'm still going to go with Michael Vick. Obviously, Randy Moss was great, and you know everybody still to this day says mossed them when they jump over somebody, but
it's a verb.
Man, Michael Vick was he was that guy.
He was that guy. You got it right.
He could have easily had $200-300 million contracts easily, but yeah, Vick was my guy, man.
Love it. We all have that one guy in the NFL that we either watched growing up. When you meet him, you finally like freak out. His is prime. Kyle's like when he sees prime, he doesn't know how to act.
Mine is prime too.
So when you see him, what is that like?
You know what? It's funny because I actually have never told him this. I never told him that I idolized him growing up and that he was my guy that I wanted to be like.